In this lesson, we'll be covering several different types of data structures. And data structures are something that you probably haven't seen yet. It is the idea being that you're going to keep large amounts of data or multiple pieces of data in one structure and in a way that can be organized. So if I was in a program and I wanted to create a bunch of numbers, so right now at this point I might go number equals 0, and then number 2 equals 0, number 3 equals 5, number 4 equals 10, number 5 equals 3, and so on. And if I wanted multiple, I wanted a lot more of these, I have to keep typing all these names over and over and over and over. And that's just not a doable idea here, that I'm going to continue to create variable names for a million different pieces of data in my programs. So at some point we have to come up with some kind of system that's going to go ahead and allow us to group a lot of data in under one name. So we can come up with one name and then store lots of data in there. In this particular case, that's where the list comes in. And so the list is a data structure in Python and most other languages as well that allows us to make up a particular name. So here I might call it numbers equal list. And in this case, now numbers can hold more than one piece of data in our program. So now I can say numbers dot append 0. And in this case, now what we've got is I've got the first 0 is now in the numbers list, and the first spot in the list is the 0 location. Now we've got the in this particular case, you've got the value 0 stored in the 0 location. So if I wanted to print out numbers 0 like that, it would output to the screen the number stored in there 0. If I go back up here and I change this to a 5, this will now print out the number 5. And so the list is something that can continue to be added to and expands as you need it. The other data structure that we'll be talking about is called a set. And a set is very similar to the list, except for it excludes duplicate data. So you can't have multiple items of the same type in your sets. Or not, they have all kinds of different types, but the same exact element. So there can't be the number 5 in there twice. There can't be 0 in there more than once. And so it makes it exclusive as to what items are going to be in there. This is handy in certain situations as something you may want to use in the program. The other item we'll be talking about are arrays. And in Python, an array doesn't really exist. And so when you think about it, the list is it starts empty and it grows and expands as you're using it. And the way an array works, it's really more of a it works just the syntax of it is very similar to what I've got up here for a list. And definitely when you look at this right here, that syntax is very common for accessing arrays, and typically lists don't have this this syntax, And we'll talk about it more later in the lesson as far as the syntax goes, but this is typically thought of as an array syntax. However, the array data structure is very different. In a real array, you've got the memory is mapped out before you ever use it. So if I was going to do this in my code, I would have to tell it how many of these numbers I want to create. So here in our lists, in this list, I created an empty one right here, created an empty list, and then every time I append, it just makes more it uses more memory in our program. So if I go like that, we now have 2 spots in our array, and now I can print numbers 1, and that's in the 1 spot, and it would now print out 30. And so we've got the 0 spot and we have a 1 spot, and the change of our array changed size. So it went from, it had 1 item to 2 items. And so then we go and you look at how does a list work? Well, in Python, this doesn't exist, so it's hard to show you any code, but I can explain in the fact that when you think of it, when I start it, and this is a syntax used for a list in Python, so I could say and in this particular case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and let's put one more for 10. We've got 10 numbers in our array. Right now there are 10 0 in our list, but our array, and so we've got 10 numbers. And if this was a true array, in memory it would automatically create that memory, and it would start from a spot in memory, and it would go the size of 10 items in memory, and that would be it. So all we could ever have were those 10 items in our array, and it couldn't change size. The only way that you could change it and add more items to it, an 11th item or a 12th item, is you would have to recreate the entire array in memory. So it's a very different data structure, but it's very fast. They don't have them in Python, so this is Python's a weakly type language, and strongly typed languages typically have your array. So in this particular language, I can now say numbers to.append, and we'll cover this more in a future lesson. Append 77, and so now we've got a 11th item in numbers 2 that we can get to. This is not something that an array can actually do. So as far as our sets go, the sets can be created using this set. And so on, and so this will be a set. And what will happen here is that this is very similar to the list, but it just will not allow, if I try to create this with anything that's duplicate in here, it won't actually add it to the set. Anyway, we will talk more about each of these later in the lesson.